Hey, what's going on, guys? So this is the first video in kind of like a mini series, if you will, that I'm going to do that kind of goes over, like OTC products, herbal supplements, things like that. That's kind of a subject that a lot of times we kind of overlook as healthcare professionals. And it's something that a lot of patients are interested in or are just taking these things without even letting you know. And, we have to worry about drug-drug interactions, adverse effects, all that fun stuff. And a lot of times patients are just trying to avoid regular medications. They want to take something that's more natural. They're worried about the long-term, potential negative consequences of taking these medications. And so, it's not that I want to discourage people necessarily from using supplements, maybe sometimes, but I want to basically just kind of go through some of the data because there may be some good data out there that we haven't really considered. Also, I want to make sure we go through some of the potential dangers like drug-drug interactions and things like that, just so that you're familiar with these. So if your patients do bring them to you, that you have some information to kind of back up your recommendations to them. So the first one I want to start off with is lutein and zeaxanthin. Now, you may have seen this. A lot of times I've seen optometrists recommending it. There's even maybe some ophthalmologists that have recommended this. And the reason I chose these two pictures kind of as the, cover of this is this AREDS 2 formula right here that's listed on the box. That's kind of what got these two supplements their claim to fame, if you will. And we'll look at that study briefly and see what it's kind of showing and how good the evidence is. So lutein is a carotenoid that is typically found when you're talking about a supplement form of it, it's typically found in combination with its stereoisomer, which is the zeaxanthin. Now, both of these are carotenoid pigments that are found in the human macula and retina, and they function as antioxidants, and they filter out blue light. So in theory, they kind of protect that underlying ocular tissue from any kind of like photo damage over time. And so typically when you're thinking about lutein zeaxanthin, you're thinking age-related macular degeneration, potentially even cataracts, things like that. There's a lot of other potential uses or theoretical uses for it as well, and I'll talk about some of those. But the age-related macular degeneration is the one that you're most likely going to hear about the most. So in the diet, lutein is found in mostly vegetables and fruit. Eggs is something that does contain some lutein as well, but typically it's going to be your broccoli and spinach, as well as some of your more like starchy vegetables like your peas, and then fruits, mangoes, things like that. And there's others, but a lot of times it's vegetables and fruit. Again, as far as its uses in clinic, its clinical uses is going to be more so age-related macular degeneration and cataracts. Those are the two big ones that you see the most. Also, maybe some diabetic neuropathy, and then you kind of get way off into left field where they start talking about cardiovascular disease prevention, Parkinson's disease, maybe even like age-related cognitive decline. They talk about like exercise-induced muscle soreness, all kinds of different things. And that's where we're going to kind of look at some of the data to see if it's actually any evidence that supports this. So from a dosing standpoint, there have been several very small studies that have looked at kind of the safety of lutein, and they found that up to 20 milligrams daily does seem to be safe. As far as side effects go, there's really not a whole lot that's reported as far as side effects. Maybe a little stomach upset, things like that, but nothing major. And it's one of those things that's genuinely safe as long as you're taking 20 milligrams or less. We're not really worried about any adverse effects or anything. Again, the study that probably has the most evidence for this is the AREDS 2 trial. It was published in JAMA of 2013, and there's all kinds of like secondary analysis and things like that have kind of looked at this, but the one I want to focus on is particular age-related macular degeneration. The only real benefit as far as slowing down that progression was in patients who had like the lowest quantities of dietary intake of lutein. And so yes, you got a significant difference in those patient population. So, from a clinical standpoint, I don't know, maybe somebody who's on like a carnivore diet and they literally only eat meat, you're probably not going to find too many of those, and I probably wouldn't recommend that diet either. But if you do have those patients that just never eat vegetables and they have a family history of macular degeneration or things like that, then maybe. It may be something beneficial. As the patients in that study, as their dietary levels kind of increased and you got more towards like otherwise healthy patients, you really didn't see that benefit anymore. So that didn't really slow the progression of the macular degeneration. So it's something that I would save kind of as far as, the patient population, probably not going to help a lot. But if you have a patient that is just insisting on taking it, at least we do know that in the AREDS formula dosing, it is going to be considered safe and very little adverse effects. All right, so again, possibly effective age-related macular degeneration in cataracts. Cataracts is another part of that study. And, again, put like a little asterisk by that and say in patients with very low dietary lutein levels. And then most likely going to be ineffective. And this is kind of directly from Natural Medicine's database, if you're wondering. They'll give you a lot more information and links to these studies and things like that. The cardiovascular disease prevention, fractures is another thing I didn't really mention. Not really any great evidence. If there is evidence, it's very weak and a lot of problems with the way the study was set up and things like that. And then there's considered like insufficient reliable evidence to kind of rate it with things like cognitive decline, diabetes, muscle soreness from exercise, all that fun stuff. Not really anything showing that it's effective or would lead me to want to recommend it. Interactions with drugs. The good news is none that we know of. We haven't seen any interactions. And so if somebody does, again, kind of decide to take it, as long as they're taking reasonable doses, there's, the way that the AREDS formula comes, they're really not going to be in too much danger of drug-drug interactions or adverse effects or anything. So it's probably safe. And if it puts them at peace of mind, then go for it. Interactions with foods, Olestra, the fat substitute, theoretically speaking, use of Olestra may interfere with the way supplemental lutein is activated in the system. It can technically lower serum lutein concentrations in patients that are healthy. But again, unless you have a patient that is consuming a lot of that, then I wouldn't be overly worried about it, because you have to be very deficient and have all the other issues going on with macular degeneration that would actually benefit and slow the progression of that with these supplements. So there you go. Just a quick summary, but check out Natural Medicine's database if you're curious for about more information. They have more than you probably could ever want, and we will pull some more supplements and more videos to come. Thanks.